Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I'm Shekhar Gupta in Hyderabad. And my guest today, somebody who I might call, or you can call, the Dean of the Civil Service in India and maybe Doyen of the central bankers in the whole world. Mr. YV Reddy, Dr. YV Reddy, welcome to Walk the Talk.
Thank you, sir.
And you rarely talk, so I'm so grateful that, because your autobiography has just come out, Na Napakalu, which means my memories, right? It's an autobiography, not a memoir. We can't read it because it's Telugu, but it's given us an excuse to catch hold of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Why have you been so reticent all your life, particularly in the bank?
No, actually, I think it's always better for a civil servant to be faceless, anonymous. And by and large, it's for the minister to appear or politicians. So in civil service, that's a tradition. Only when I became a central banker, I had to come out a little more. And even as a central banker, I think you have to talk a lot but never convey anything significant. Be careful.
I think you once said something like, I like to surprise the markets. And I think we wrote a critical editorial saying central bankers should not surprise the markets.
Yes, but let me explain. What happened over a period, at that time the belief was that the central bankers should give forward guidance.
Right.
Now I commented that if the central bank gives forward guidance, then the market participants will take excessive risks.
Right.
In fact, I said that that might be one of the reasons why people may be taking excessive risks. Secondly, if you try to give forward guidance, it presumes that we know more than the market. So therefore, I think it's not, so my philosophy was that I'll share my analysis, but there's no guidance.
There's no guidance. No. But you built quite a reputation.
No, but I think the more important, there are two things I would say, whatever the reputation is, but more important two things. On capital account management, I was careful to, and said that I would like to manage the capital account rather than allow more and more freedom.
Because nobody, I think there's an instance you mentioned of where conversation between Greenspan and
yes, and Clinton, yes,
where Clinton said, I will give 25 billion to Mexico because they're in trouble.
But if there's any other country like India, only country named in that conversation,
yes, India.
Yes.
He said Mexico is in trouble. I will give them the money because they are next door to us on our border.
Absolutely.
But India is far. But another country like say India, which is far away, I want.
He didn't even say like India.
Like India.
That's what struck him. The contrast to neighbor is India.
Right.
Yes. That's a
so that's where this finance becomes more than just money. It becomes diplomacy, geopolitics.
Yes, and more important, maybe I have a psychological problem because during the BOP crisis, 90 to 93, I was the joint secretary in charge of balance of payments. I have gone through the pain of
sending gold out.
Yes, I had to handle the gold and many other things during that period.
And was it humiliating, sir?
Yes, of course, as a national humiliation. And the other problem at that time, of those 3 years, the first year was the stress, second year was the crisis, third year was the reform.
Right.
In 3 years, we had 3 prime ministers, 3 finance ministers, 3 finance secretaries, 3 governors, 3 chief economic advisors. So the one person who has seen all faces of those
is
3
you.
is me. And that can be quite an influence on what I may call being conscious of the downside of the risk. Or let me also share with you something else, what I may call the political mandate. Soon after I joined as governor, naturally I go and call on the Prime Minister. I went and called on Professor Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister. There was a conversation. I
like the way you say Professor Manmohan Singh, not Dr. Manmohan Singh.
He's my teacher in many ways, he's my guru. There several points, but at the end there was only one thing he asked me. He told me, Venu, I hope there will never be a situation where we have to go to the fund.
IMF.
This is the Prime Minister of the country. And then I simply said, sir, I'll give you guarantee.
Because he was also wounded, having had to deal with it once.
And he has seen through 83, he's dealt with the fund.
Right.
So if you ask me, another way of putting it is that I had virtually a political mandate, a policy mandate to make sure that we don't go anywhere near that type of risk.
And when you did it, I think many of us were critical of you, but I think acknowledgement came from high monetary authorities around the world. Tell us about that.
So you see, that was basically, let me put it this way. If the crisis occurred 3 months after I left, nobody would have noticed me. And if it happened 3 months before, then I would have been asked to handle it. And in either way, the so-called quote-unquote achievements would not have been noticed.
So, sir, given the fact that this is an aberrant phase of 3-4 months, whatever time it takes, it's a temporary phase. It's a very major decision. Could this have been done in a way that did not bring questions about RBI's reputation? Because that's your alma mater. That's what you feel most strongly about.
See,
because now there is Standard and Poor attacking it. The entire financial media around the world is attacking it. And frankly, we are all attacking it. But you know, we are the way we are. We can be dismissed.
No, it is very difficult to say, but there are two things. One, the task that has been undertaken of replacing almost 80% of the currency is something which is almost impossible to deliver without huge problems.
Right.
And I presume the Reserve Bank of India would have definitely explained the implications to the government. Okay. Then the second question is whether they did it or not. I believe they should have done it professionally. Second, the issue is when carrying it out, could the operations have been more efficient? Perhaps, but I won't consider that there was much of headroom because of the secrecy. There is very little headroom. 3, whether greater efforts should have been made to explain to the people, make the process smoother? Yes. Definitely, I think there could have been greater communication. And convincing that the Reserve Bank of India is responsive to this. Because ultimately, currency is the RBI subject.
Right.
So it is its reputation, even if it is doing at the instance of the government, which is not unusual, if sometimes it happens. But even when you do that, it is the RBI's reputation is at stake. You can't.
So RBI should be speaking out.
Not only speaking out, but giving comfort. See, in the final analysis, the role of the central bank is to make people feel safe.
Right.
They are the custodians of the trust of the society.
Right.
It's not just a governmental institution.
Right.
They are the custodians of the trust of the society in money and finance of this country.
Right.
And that goes beyond just one functional.
And sir, we haven't seen enough of that in the last couple of months.
I can't comment on that, but there has been in the way I look at it is I am concerned when basically I'm a little worried about two things. Economist, which was praising RBI as one of the best in the world, Economist magazine.
Even through the 2008 trouble, it was praising RBI as among the best.
Then you have the S&P rating agency. And imagine it, rating agency trying to point out a central bank. See, a central bank should always be respected by rating agencies.
Right.
So because of this...
And that's never happened with RBI.
Not to my knowledge, never. It's almost inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Therefore, I feel strongly that we cannot have a situation where a rating agency, an internationally respected magazine, points a finger at our central bank. I mean, that's what it is.
So what is it that you will tell the Economist and you will tell Standard and Poor on behalf of your institution?
I would certainly say that if I have to appear in a gathering, I would say that as far as the RBI's professionalism and its capacity to handle normal situation remains unchanged. But this is an extraordinary situation and an extraordinary task which in the normal course would have been impossible for any central bank to deliver it comfortably.
Right.
And therefore, this is the situation which you have to understand.
And what is it that you will tell your colleagues, be avuncular for a minute, to tell your wards and colleagues in Reserve Bank of India? What do they do? What should they do?
I think at least, now the pain has been gone through, but I think I would say that there should be, you should give a feeling of comfort and credibility. You know, if you say that I will make available these notes by this period,
right,
you should deliver it. If you can't deliver it, don't promise it. I think that's a credibility issue. The people should be prepared to trust you.
Right.
Money and finance is all business of trust. So even if you give a timetable, I'll see that
right.
ATM will have machine, then you should be able to deliver it. Otherwise, you give 1 week to more. So I think they have to now everybody in the RBI will have to make sure that their credibility is restored, rather than give a feeling that
They are hiding.
Either they are hiding or that they are not telling the truth, or that they are not assessing. Sometimes it may be not hiding, but there may be nothing there to hide also.
Because they don't know.
So I
But
think
that's worse.
that's worse.
That's worse. Because if they're hiding, then my doctor
Yeah.
knows the problem, he's not telling me.
Right.
But if you suspect my doctor doesn't even know the problem, it's worse.
Right. So I think that is, but also the whole issue is the relative roles of the government and the central bank.
Right.
And that's another issue. Normally, whenever there is a crisis, the sovereign prevails and predominates. And this type of operation that has been undertaken
It's
is
a
not-
sovereign directed operation.
and the nature, the magnitudes, the humongous logistics are such that it should be treated as an extraordinary situation. And therefore, the responsibility entirely lies with the sovereign.
Sir, yes.
In all situations, whenever there is a crisis, it is the sovereign which prevails.
Right. So, sir, since the responsibility lies with the sovereign, as you say, then it's all right for the sovereign to post a joint secretary in the RBI from Ministry of Finance to guide these operations?
No. It's not that you physically take over or anything. But the issue is
But
that...
that's what happened. They sent a joint secretary for quite some time. Quite a few
I mean,
months.
I don't know that. But what I meant when I said the sovereign takes over, I'm not saying that sovereign takes over the functions.
Right.
But there is no such quote unquote, the independence of central bank is not the same during crisis period.
Right.
It's the sovereign who dictates terms whenever there's
a crisis.
This is crisis type situation.
Right.
This is a crisis type situation.
And whether the crisis is beyond your control or whether the crisis is something
Yes.
that you deliberately created because it's a disruptive move.
See, this certainly not external, externally
right,
induced crisis
right,
or anything
right.
like that. But my limited point is, in any case, a joint operation is necessary, inevitable for a thing like this.
Right.